And of course, there'll be other things I'll be doing, like retreats and workshops and courses and stuff. But I think the basic principles of psychoanalysis and the importance of the unconscious are probably at the heart of what I'm trying to share. And also this idea of mind, body, spirit balance, because I'm also a certified Chopra Perfect Health Instructor as well. So as helpers and entrepreneurs, helperpreneurs and therapists, we all need more balance in our life, especially like in very stressful times. So it's about trying to find ways to continue to have that balance. So today I thought I was going to share with you about one of the fundamental tools and techniques of accessing your own unconscious, and that's through dream interpretation or dream analysis. So that's what I was here to talk to you about, and I'm happy to share whatever would be helpful. And I certainly have a lot of things I could talk about, but maybe you have a question, and however you want to.
I have many questions, but the first one, which really stood out to me with your introduction and telling us about who you are and what you do, what was it that actually activated you to realize that you must serve on a higher and greater level? Because you've had a very successful career and you've helped thousands and thousands of people for the past 25 years in a very needed space. But was there a specific time or something specifically happened? Or what really activated you to realize, okay, I need to do something different and more with all this wisdom?
Well, yes, I have actually got a full practice. So I actually am not even taking new referrals right now. And I teach and I supervise and consult, and I have a very diverse practice. But I think it became apparent over many years that so there's two things. One is this idea of equity and really wanting everyone to have access to good treatment and good care and good information. And one of the ways that I did that over time was I had parts of my practice where I would offer a reduced fee. So if somebody was an artist and the only income they had was through their art, I dramatically decreased my fee. And I tried to keep it where at least not more than half of my practice would be at some point in some reduced fee. So just fundamentally, that's how I've always worked, and it's been important to me. But several years back, my son almost died. And when that happened, I realized that in my professional life and in my mental life, there was nothing I could have done to prepare myself to have my life rocked that way. And the piece of my life that had not been expanded as much as what was really needed was my spiritual life. So that's what called me to go on a retreat. That's what called me to become a Chopra Perfect Health Instructor. And this idea of mind, body, spirit balance and becoming what I consider a holistic, integrative psychoanalyst. And what that means for me is I'm not married to one particular psychoanalytic theory. I don't believe there's only one way to help people. I believe there's many paths. And I also believe that if you're not taking care of your mind, your body, and your spirit, and you're not aligned with yourself and your values, then there's no amount of therapy actually, or coaching that's going to help you if you're also not eating well and taking care of your body and being aware enough of what's going on inside of you to kind of course correct. I think about it as we're on this journey and we have to be tuned in enough to course correct. And for me, the course correct was I needed to go on that retreat. And I realized, after 25 years sitting in my own chair, 8 to 10 hours a day, every day, serving in a meaningful way, which I love, was also not the way I wanted to spend the entirety of the rest of my life. So that's what also was this calling, that I could do something bigger, I could do something more. And that's the only way I can describe it. It was just a calling to take all that experience and knowledge and share it. So that's.
Thank you for sharing and being so open and vulnerable. And it's interesting. I think there is a common thread when people realize they need to go out and serve at a higher, different level, is that usually it entails something that is either tragic or something that endears, I don't think that's the right word, but includes like a life or death situation that really has us awaken that life is short and that our lives can change in a matter of a second. And so it just puts that perspective that life is so precious, right? And be mindful of what we're doing. What we've done in the past doesn't necessarily have to mean what we're going to do in the future. And so I want to dive
that's
in.
right.
So I'm happy that your son is doing well at this moment, even though there's ups and downs in parenting. And like, I know having 2 children that never really ends the problems in parenting, right? But what I want to really dive into today specifically is the overview of what's the difference. Personally, I want to clarify from a professional like you, what's the difference between conscious and unconscious, and then also subconscious?
Good question. You know, a lot of people talk, first of all, conscious is literally what we mean when we say it's the thoughts and the feelings that we're literally aware of. Without much effort, they're there. And it's observable and available. But people often substitute the word unconscious with subconscious. Now, the way I was trained and the way I understand it is I think of it truly as the unconscious. And some people think about subconscious as just the layer right underneath underneath conscious. So it's just like, in other words, it's a sub layer of conscious. I don't know, maybe we could think about it as, in my language, would be preconscious, which means if you just kind of barely scratch the surface, there it is, right? It's something we've always known, and yet somehow it slipped temporarily. Like we have those experiences like, well, I've always known that. But whereas the unconscious in some ways is so disguised sometimes that we really have to dig around and we have to explore to be able to really understand it or really see the messages or really to see a different truth. Maybe we could talk about it as, you know, in the happenings of our life, we're influenced by our perspective, and our perspective is influenced by our age, by our developmental stage. The way, right, we don't even have formalized thinking, right, until pre-adolescence. So, you know, people can be very concrete thinkers. They don't have abstract thought. A 3-year-old is going to interpret an event very differently than a 12-year-old or a 30-year-old. Ostensibly, you would say that. It may range, but so being able to understand and look back at the old stories and the old experiences and unpack them with our current mind and our current experience can really let us see something we had never seen before. So sometimes our unconscious is actual repressed memories, sometimes they're wishes, fears, you know, yeah. So it's like the range of that, and it's hidden from view. And I think of the unconscious as like our hidden secret self, right?
That's so interesting. So the hidden secret self is the unconscious. And then the conscious is what we're aware of. And the subconscious is I believe, in a lack of a better term, that a lot of people are unconscious of the subconscious, but it's easier to access in our, I would say, alert stage. Is that right?
Well, I think there are some people that walk around, and I think of them as psychologically minded and deep thinkers, and they're constantly curious about their own mind and the world. And I find that many people who are drawn to this particular helping profession, that's not natural and normal for them. But certainly there are a lot of people that don't even realize there's an interior, that there is anything to be curious about. And in fact, when we talk about dreams, one of the things which happens a lot is people have a dream and they'll come in here and they'll say, it was so ridiculous, or it was stupid, or it didn't make any sense, or that part wasn't important, right? And all of it is important because all of it has embedded in it little clues just for you. Yeah.
So I have a question about what does it mean if you don't really remember your dreams very well? Like, I don't remember my dreams very well, but it's interesting because I have come to a point of, if I am aware and ask myself a question, and I did this just a few days ago, is I asked myself a question right before I went to sleep that I wanted to know. Like, I think it was, what do I need right now in the moment to move forward? Because, I sometimes we feel stuck or overwhelmed, or I was confused, or I just needed that higher guidance, because I know it's always there to access. And so when I can be aware of asking questions, or even tell myself, okay, be aware of what's coming in, then I actually can remember my dreams better. But if someone doesn't remember their dreams, like, I feel like through life, I haven't remembered my dreams very well. Why is that? Why do we not remember our dreams? And then we can maybe dive into actually understanding dreams.
Okay. So from my perspective, I'm sure there's lots of reasons maybe. And that's one thing about being an analyst and the way I think. And this is what I want to teach people is like, there is never one reason for anything. Like if that's a good takeaway, there's never one reason. So if you come up with some reason for something, just know there's more than one reason, always, always. So why don't people remember their dreams? Well, for some people, they don't actually really want to remember their dreams, right? Some people are afraid. They're afraid sometimes.
I think that's me. I'm afraid to actually realize what is going on in the unconscious. Like, I have realized I'm afraid of my own powers. Yeah. And that's what's held me back sometimes. And I think a lot of people are.
Carrie, it's I can't tell you how often. I mean, so I do, in my practice, I do psychotherapy. And so for some people, I see them once a week or every couple of weeks. But I also see people twice and 3 times a week, 4 times a week, 5 times a week, depending. And the difference between doing a psychotherapy and a psychoanalysis is a difference of having that deep, getting that deep work done and getting that traction. And I don't know, this is kind of an aside, but I don't know if you saw this show on Netflix called My Octopus Teacher. Have you seen it?
No.
You got to see this movie. Okay. Well, let me just share a thought. It's a documentary. The piece that I'm thinking about right now is he committed to showing up every single day in the same place, in the same body of water, just to see what would happen. And he uncovered something about himself and this underwater world. And it's just an amazing show. But what I was thinking is about that is if we show up every day for ourselves, the reason psychoanalysis works differently than a psychotherapy even is like you have more time to dig down. If you think about an archaeological dig, if you dig and you start to uncover, think about it if you wait for a whole week. Maybe there's my phone in my office ringing. Okay, whatever. There's an archaeological dig going on and maybe there's a wind comes in and it covers it back up or someone kicks the sand in. So getting deep into there is really important. People don't always remember their dreams because they're scared of what they're going to unearth. They're scared of what they're going to find. They're scared of their own thoughts. And I'm going to tell you, you have good company. And what I was saying about psychoanalysis is I think every single person that's literally gotten on the couch and committed to that level of work is afraid of what they're going to find. They're afraid of what they're going to think or what they're going to say to me or what we'll find together. It can be scary to go on an uncharted territory. Think about it. When you go on a trip, if you've got everything mapped out, it's a little less scary. When things are not as mapped out, you're not quite sure what's around the corner. So one of the functions, though, of dreams is it's the guardian of sleep and it keeps people asleep. So one other thought I have is when people don't remember their dreams, it's sometimes they have disrupted sleep and they're not getting good enough sleep to produce those dreams. And for those people who are afraid to know, there's often what we call a resistance inside, something that keeps you from knowing. So you might say, I want to remember, but deep inside if you're scared and concerned, about what will have to change in your life if you discover something. That's often part of the fear. Or you'll have to face something that was really painful or scary, and you don't want to go there either. So there's a lot of reasons why people don't remember their dreams. But I will say what you did the other night, I don't know if that was prompted by my email to you too, but I think people that say, I don't dream at all, I say, just when you go to bed, suggest to yourself that you're going to dream, and maybe dream something important or relevant or something about what you need. And know that when you wake up, you'll have the dream there to guide you. And in that vein, I always say, keep your phone and your notepad either to write or to type. Or for me, I pick up my phone and I literally dictate it into my notepad, because if I wake up, I'm still kind of groggy and I'll just speak into it. It's not always very accurate. It fixes words around on you, but recording it as soon as you wake up is really important, because of course, these things evaporate. Yeah.
Yes, they do. So very quickly. And I think some of the greatest artists and geniuses of our time have had all of their ideas come to them in their sleep, right? And so I feel like sometimes you're right. And I don't know if I'm the only one, or if I'm strange, that I want to just avoid actually what is happening underneath the surface. But it just goes to show you how important that it is, that there's resistance there, and it's not something to be scared of, right?
Well, I think I don't tell people what not to do. I don't say don't be scared. What I say is, it seems normal to be scared, but to try to be curious instead of judgmental about it, to not dismiss things too quickly or jump to conclusions, because sometimes dreams can be very frightening or upsetting or disconcerting. A young woman who has a dream about her father laying next to her in bed, and what that might mean, or the fact that you dreamt that you stabbed somebody in the dream. What does that mean? Like, am I a murderer? So, I mean, I think there's these dreams that come to people and they're like, these scare me, or these upset me. Like, I have no idea why I had that dream or that thought. And I say to people, don't take it at face value. Just know that no matter how upsetting or disturbing the dream is, that there's something to be decoded there that probably is actually less frightening. It's sort of like, when you're a little kid and you're scared to look under the bed. And really, when you look under the bed, it's nothing really, or maybe it's your stuffed animal, right? And I think when people come in here, they're very afraid of what they're going to see. But really, once they start to look, it's less scary. It's like the scary thing is the not knowing. The scary is the secret, right? It's not the actual knowing. So I also say you will come to know what you need to know when you're ready to know it. Right. So you don't have to rush it. You don't have to rush it. And for some people, they don't remember all their dreams. And, but I just say, be curious and don't judge yourself. But by the way, the same process of understanding your dreams, you can do with your daydreams, and sexual fantasies. Right. These are all things that we create in our minds. So you can be curious about all of that.
Curiosity is such a strong word, I think. And it's something I feel like you brought up. It's okay to be scared of it. It's okay to be fearful of it. It's just like doing anything in our conscious world, is that's really where we evolve and we grow and we learn the most, is when we actually can just push through that uncomfortable feeling of not knowing what's on the other side. And so you brought up something in my own dream that stood out to me, is that I've been scared of it. I didn't even want to bring it up to you, but when you said bring a dream that you have, so it did involve stabbing. Okay. So it wasn't me stabbing. It was like me in a car, and there was some I don't even know what was leading up to this moment, but I think I was in a car, someone was outside of the car. And then I just imagine like this person, this face being like an axe to their throat. And it's terrifying So what does that mean if there's stabbing in a dream? Does it mean one thing or another?
Okay, this is a really good question. Well, first of all, I'm so glad that just my saying that made you feel just a little more brave to say it and think it, because think about it. I think part of what we want to keep hidden about ourselves, our secret thoughts, our scary dreams, all that stuff really causes a lot of shame and fear. And I think that's one of the jobs I have when people come to see me, is I'm ultimately becoming not impartial, because I'm very invested and care very deeply about my patients, but I am witnessing with them, non-judgmental, right? Kind of having a holding space. And I use that word curious a lot, because in terms of a value I hold, I think if we walk through the world more curious, it's a very opening kind of position to be in. So you asked me about the stabbing and what it means. So, there's a history to understanding dreams that dates back thousands and thousands of years. Okay. And in the beginning of time, they believed that it was like God's planting the thoughts, or a portents. But even back as old as time, the Babylonians had a dream symbol book. And if you go to the store, or you type in Amazon dream interpretation, there's going to be tons and tons of these symbols books. So if you go and look it up, you could look it up and look up what is stabbing, right? Mm-hmm. And I think of those books as great ways to kind of plug in holes or get your mind thinking, because there are universals out there. What's more important is what it means to you, because your own experience of the knife, your own experience of the act of stabbing, all these things can conjure up your own association. So that's when I talk about how do you actually interpret dreams. You would literally take all those elements you just talked about, right? There was a car. There was somebody, was it an axe to the neck? Or you said an axe, didn't you?
It seemed like that, yes. I don't think I saw the actual thing, but
in your mind, it was an axe. So there's something important about the fact that your mind saw the axe, whether it was there or not. Now, sometimes there's secondary revisions to our dreams that when we wake up, we're revising it even as we're speaking, right? But even the ways we revise tell us something about ourselves. So if I was going to have you, I could guide you through that, right? Like if I was going to unpack that dream with you, it would take us some time to do that. So I'm willing to do that with you, but let me share with you the framework so everyone could do this. And that is, you would first of all ask yourself, what is the overall emotion in the dream? And so for you, what was the emotion?
It's interesting because there is a lot of layers to this, I believe. This might take weeks to uncover, but
I know it does, because I know how the unconscious works. It's a deep, deep reservoir of history and meaning. I'm trying to find my glasses because I think I saw a chat and I want to make sure if there's a question.
I will monitor the chat.
So there might be a question. Okay. So my point is, what was the overall emotion in your dream? So what would that be?
Well, I don't know what the overall emotion was. It was maybe fear or the unknown or enlightenment or love.
Okay, so what I would say, the first thing I would say is your go-to is like when you woke up, what was the feeling you had about the dream? So maybe it was initially fear. I don't know, but you can pay attention to all those other things because there may be elements of that. But you take the first thing that comes up, fear, and then maybe you write down your dream and you see what's happening. There's been some injury, something's happened. There's some kind of aggression. Now you're using the word unknown, right? There's something about the major symbols going back to that were the axe, the car, the neck, the damage to the neck in particular, which makes you think of what? If someone were going to cut your neck, what would that do?
Well, it would create death, or it can even be something with the throat chakra. I feel like the voice, the pain.
Speaking out.
Yeah.
So what is, so we begin to start thinking about what this means, right? Does it mean something about, you said fear, right? That there's maybe some aggression. You might start to wonder about, is there fear that there'll be aggression if you were to speak out? So, but I don't know, but I would be starting to wonder this with you. And if I knew you even more and I knew your history, I would right then already be helping you see how it was already attached to some story you had already told me, potentially, about the danger of speaking out, or speaking up for yourself, or showing up. I mean, even this kind of platform that we're on is you're literally getting out and speaking, right? So what is it about you letting yourself launch into this new part of your career that stirs something up? But I mean, I wouldn't jump to those conclusions because you're the expert of your own dreams. And I think that's really what I want to tell you. Like, you can go get a dream symbol book, but the most important thing is your associations to each of those elements. And really letting yourself do what I call free associative journaling about each element. So the two major techniques of psychoanalysis, two of them, there's more, but is dream interpretation and free association, to say whatever comes to mind without reservation and without judgment, as if you're just looking out the window of a train. So if you wanted to figure out what an axe means to you, you would literally write down the word axe, and then you would just start saying anything that came to your mind about an axe. Let yourself do that for a few minutes, anything that comes up. And then you would do that same thing for each of those elements. And what's going to start happening is you're already going to start feeling something and knowing something. It's going to, the pieces are going to start to fall together. There's going to be a theme in the dream. And so that's, and the other thing is, if you get stuck, another way to, there's many ways to interpret dreams, by the way. But another one is to kind of focus on the actual verbs. I was, I don't even know. We'd have to tell you, I'd have to hear you literally retell that dream, but maybe it's that you were walking and then there was stabbing and then there was bleeding. I don't know, but, and then you would just sort of look through those and begin to start saying, and the other thing is there's usually residue of the day, Carrie. Some piece of your dream is going to have residue of the day. So there might be something you watched. Maybe there was a program or you heard a story. And so you're going to look for the residue of the day. And then you're going to say, is there something in my life right now that's either a dilemma, a concern that this dream is speaking to, right? So you want to ask that kind of question. What is this about that's going on right now? So last night I had a dream. I was in a library, floor to ceiling, books everywhere. And I was trying to either find, I need to look back. I have not had time to analyze my dream today. I've been back to back, but I was either trying to find or put back Freud's interpretation of dreams, which was a book he wrote in 1895, which was literally the origin of him using dream interpretation as a way to understand the unconscious. So here it is in my dream. That's my residue, right? I was thinking about coming today to talk to you. And instead, the book that ended in my hand was, oh my gosh, it's, oh my God, Dante's Inferno. It was like, it slipped my mind for a minute. Dante's Inferno. So I thought to myself, oh my God, that's about hell. And then I didn't even let myself think about it. And then a couple of minutes later, I thought, wait a second. In Dante's Inferno, you literally are following a path through hell to find yourself, to find your true self. And I can think of no better real story of how, even just as you asked me today, how do you come to be where you are? How did any of us come to be where we are? That we've come through some kind of hell, every one of us, in different ways. So I loved that I had that, because that was to me, a good resolution of that dream in my mind. But even then, I think that's the thing. We have these ideas of how we're going to judge our dreams as good or bad. And I think it's just about trying to stay open. What is this message? What is this message? We're going to problem solve,
I think that in either not remembering your dreams, or remembering the dreams and then the dream scares me or scares somebody, having a bad dream, and even going there to try to break it down and self-analyze our own dreams, It's scary, it's fearful. And then how much moving forward, if you were to do that through your techniques, how much should we integrate this into like our intuition, or how much weight should we give those dreams and that analysis to moving forward?
Well, I I think of it as a process. People don't come here and measure their time with me in days and weeks. It's months and years, and mostly just years. um, but one of the fascinating things that's happened when I've worked with people for years is to see the evolution of a dream. Some people have what they call these repetitive dreams, right? The dreams you keep having over and over again. And one of the fascinating things that happens is when people start actually working on themselves and making change, the way that you can tell you're making deep internal structural change is your dreams will start to change. So for example, there was someone who had a dream where in the dream, they were in a fight with one of their family members and they were punching, but the blows were just glancing, barely glancing. They weren't effectual. And by the end of the analysis, those blows were landing and they were feeling very effective, though very much in touch with their aggression and anger at the happening that caused the dream to happen. There was trauma. And then at the very end, they were no longer fighting at all in the dreams, and in fact had joined each other at a party in the next room. So there was a reconciliation between this disrupted relationship that went from feeling ineffective and powerless to feeling super powerful and effective, and then being able to let go of the trauma. So I think, is there a way for you to work your dreams or have someone else help guide you through your dreams in that way? Yes, I think we all have the power to do that. But one note about dreams, for people who are very traumatized and there's PTSD and they're having nightmares where there's intrusive, like a source of very traumatizing material, not that you shouldn't try to understand it, because sometimes you just keep accepting it at face value and there's actually more there. But I also tell people, and especially for young kids, but anybody, that you can change the outcome of your dreams also. So the way I tell people to do this is, I want you to imagine a different ending. So maybe this guy's different ending would have been being at the party and not actually even trying to punch his family member. And you try to create that, right? So we do know that there's something about creating possibility. So can we create the possibility of the other outcome? And I say yes. And so when people are really frightened, like actually I had a dream, this is very interesting. I had a dream the other day. Somebody else had been telling me about their nightmares about bats. Mm-hmm. And suddenly in my dream, I actually do not have nightmares about bats. In fact, I don't have nightmares anymore. But I did at some point in my life. But in the dream, this person's bats came into my dream, and I literally turned the whole dream into a cartoon and just did my hand like this and just issued them away. I'm sure there's more to it than that. Again, I'm telling you to analyze your dreams, and I've been so busy over the last few days, I have not actually journaled my dreams at all, but I love to do it. And it's something I really like to do. And I think if you're committed to a daily practice, or as often as possible, you can really start getting to the bottom of your dreams. So for you, if you're having scary dreams, Carrie, and that's another way to manage them, is try to think of the alternate ending, like little kids that get fearful and have scary dreams about being caught by somebody, right? The alternate dream is that they get away. So tell me about how you got away, and then go back in and dream that you got away, right? So I think it's about understanding, but we can also create possibility.
We can be empowered to have control over our dreams in a way. Is that what you're saying? And how do we do that?
So. Well, in the same way that you intend anything, like if you go to bed and you say, I would like to have a dream tonight. I had a guy that I worked with. So in my efforts to kind of launch this new business, I protect my patients' confidentiality so fiercely. And I have such a pride. In fact, my little girl, I have a daughter, and when she was really little, she was running around the house saying, my mommy's a spy. My mommy's a spy. And I said, well, why do you think mommy's a spy? She goes, well, you're dressed in black. I've never seen the inside of your office, and you never talk about your work. So I thought to myself, well, how am I going to translate this, what I do, out to the world if I can't really talk about what's been happening, right? So when I do tell stories, I try to disguise aspects of the story enough, or I combine stories together so I can. But I also decided to consult with a colleague that was not my patient, who actually did write me a testimonial, because I thought, let me see how this works with someone who's not my patient. And he was able to make use of his dreams. And he was somebody who never dreamed. And I told him, go to bed at night, suggest that you're going to dream. And he's like, I never have dreams. I'm like, just try it. The next time I saw him, he had like 4 dreams.
Wow.
Powerful.
I do believe that we can do this, because at certain times I almost feel like I'm conscious in my unconscious. And I've had that a lot more, I would say, over the past year, because I've been increasing my meditation practice and my spiritual practice. And sometimes I don't even feel like I get good rest, because I feel like I'm being the observer of my sleep, or even an observer while I'm sleeping. And I haven't really, in those days and those nights, I haven't really dug into the dream analysis, but it will be interesting now that you've given me some tools and techniques to self-analyze the dreams, how I can combine, being that more alert. I wouldn't say alert, but just aware of what's happening, so I can make more sense of what's really underneath the surface, because we all have like those obstacles and those things that are holding us back, and they really, in order to work through them, we have to do this work, I feel like, and it's not surface level.
Right. Absolutely. And dreams are the guardians of your sleep. So that's another thing, is if you just sort of let yourself relax, your dreams can guard your sleep. And that way you can just consolidate what you've learned in the day and have your mind problem solving and sifting through and filing and all the things it does to process information and, and create meaning out of everyday life. I mean, that's also what I love about what I do, is about creating meaning in everyday life through our dreams, through our experiences with people, trying to understand better our relationships with ourselves and others, like just having that introspective curiosity,
Well, I love the word curiosity. It's such a powerful word, and I definitely will have that on the forefront of my mind. I would like to ask if Chandra or Cynthia, who's with us, has any questions. You could, I know that Chandra, I'm not quite sure she can speak, but not speak, but just unmute. Let's see, but I will read her dream, or what she wrote. She wrote, okay. I had set some contacts on the bathroom counter, then they dried out and someone brushed them down the sink. I was frustrated because in my dream, I felt like I could revive them to be usable again. So do you have any insight into that dream, that she had her eye contacts on the bathroom counter, and they dried out, someone brushed them down the sink, and then she was frustrated because she felt like she couldn't revive them? And I know that this type of dream, like where we feel like we're losing something, or just like we can't quite grasp it. Like you were saying, that the punching analysis, right? It's like you just can't, you're going there and then you can't get to do it. So I used to have these nightmares, I called them. They were called server nightmares when I was a server. It was like in a restaurant, it was like I couldn't follow through and get what I had to get done, right? Like I was going to the computer and trying to type stuff in, and then I just couldn't get it out. It was like, what, that overall type of dream, what does that mean?
Well, I see your dream and Chandra's dream differently, very differently. So I'm going to separate the two for a moment. Well, although maybe the thread is there's some ineffectiveness happening, right? She can't restore the context. You can't quite do what you're supposed to do. So I think that's the thread. But for Chandra, what I would say is, as we start to try to begin to understand, she's frustrated about something. So I would begin to be curious about, what is she frustrated about right now in her life, number one. And with the contacts, I would say try to associate to that image, right? Like, what is that? What is a contact for you? First of all, the word contact, I would want to unpack, because people with contacts usually have glasses as well. So I would say there's something important about the word contact and what it might mean to her right now, about the kinds of contacts literally that she's having with people. But also contacts help you. This is what that means by condensation. If you read my dream freebie thing, it's like a little ebook that I created, right? And I kind of break this down. Condensation is when you have more than one meaning encapsulated in one thing. So the word contact could be a good vehicle for that. It could be about the contacts you're having with people, but it also could be literally contacts which help you see. So I would ask Chandra to be associating to these things, but for me, I'm just sharing some of my brief associations about not being able to see clearly, feeling ineffective. Something's happened. Like, I would be wanting to know why the bathroom sink. Obviously, that's where you take care of your contacts. So is there something about self-care or part of the daily ritual? Or like, these are the kinds of associations I'm asking people to make. You have them, right? Let yourself wonder. Why that object? Why that location? Why that person? This is very popular here. When people bring up dreams, they're like, I have no idea why Mary was in it. She's some random girl back from high school. Like, I don't even think about her anymore. And I'd be like, but what do you think about her? Well, she was actually really nice and she was super popular. And then she was dating this one guy. And then, oh, yeah, now I remember. Right. And I fill in the story. And whatever that story is something that's happening in your life right now. It's so far removed, you can't see it. Right. So I would say, Chandra, that's the beginning of unpacking the dream. What is it that you need to see clearly? What is it about your contact? And even about her eyes. Like, she may say to me, I actually have been afraid if I lost my contacts in the midst of a pandemic and I couldn't get replacement, I wouldn't be able to see. Like, that would be another example of like, what else does it mean to lose your contacts? You cannot see. It's actually quite scary sometimes to imagine being that vulnerable. And your serving dream, honestly, this is really funny. When I went to go vote, in this presidential election, I chose to vote early and I was in this really long line. And the guy in front of me spontaneously, by the way, was a server. And he started talking about dreams. And this is so funny. This is happening. He started talking about serving dreams and that it was a thing where the servers were not getting the orders right or messing them up. So on one level, I feel like there's a kind of commonality of certain dreams that happen in certain professions. And I actually asked him a question. Like, he had this long dream and he, of course, doesn't know me. I'm some stranger. He doesn't even know I'm an analyst. But at some point I'm like, and so what did you think about that image? And for him, it was that he had evaporated into sand. Right. And I asked him what it meant to him. Yeah. But I guess my point is, I think there's anxiety about not getting it right. Mm-hmm. And so you might want to say, do you carry that? Is that something you've had to deal with your whole life? Because I think the thing is that we carry our themes with us. And if you start being introspective enough and self-aware enough, you start to see that both in your dreams and in your waking life, you carry themes with you, your concerns, your fears. But again, the real gold nuggets are going to be in your particular associations and the ways you listen to yourself. So it's almost like you get to be your own analyst. And like, if you're writing, that gives you that little bit of room to step back and look and see more objectively and get that kind of observing ego where you can witness, because that's usually my job, is I'm witnessing. and watching and able to, if I was talking to you one-on-one, we would get to the bottom of it.
Well, the free association writing is so powerful, and not just in dreams, but just in general, to work through
Oh, yes.
surface level feelings, unconscious feelings. So I definitely am going to take that away and implement that into a daily practice. And then
Yes.
just one last comment here from Cynthia. She stated that she grew up listening to her grandparents decoding their dreams. And so she was always open to listening to dreams. She has simple dreams and vivid dreams that can translate to real life episodes that will happen or is happening. So in that statement, Cynthia, I have a question, that what's the difference between vivid dreams and simple dreams? Oh.
Hello?
Yes.
Hi. Hi, Jamie. Hi, Carrie.
Hi, Cynthia.
Well, I feel like my simple dreams are my everyday dreams. They, I remember my dreams always, but they don't instill any kind of message per se. And the vivid dreams are the ones that always give me a message, and I woke up with the heart pumping. And usually, um, is, like I said, something that will happen or is happening, and it's not necessarily related to me. And it's so clear that it's like, it could be like the last one I had per se, for example, was my husband's grandma. Yeah, my husband's grandma who passed away back in October. She came to my dream and she basically spoke to me, saying that she she wanted to remain with her first name papers. I had no idea what was going on, and my husband's mom was overseas in Bolivia. And so I said, this is what I dreamed. Your mom was there and a bunch of stuff was going on. And grandma told me that she wanted to remain with her first paper's name. I don't know what's going on, but I feel like you need to tell your mom this. So he talked to his mom and he got back to me and he said they're having a lot of issues with grandma's birth certificate because she had three different names. So she got married with a different name, how her husband used to call her, and her parents, put her with different. So she had like three birth certificates and they were having issues with that. So when she died, it was a whole mess. So that's just one example, and I have many more examples of something like that.
Well, my guess is that you have your own. Can you mute you for a second?
Yeah, I just said.
My guess is, Cynthia, that you have your own idea what that means. And I'm guessing that in your family, potentially, there's an actual clairvoyant gift where you can tap into the cosmic consciousness. Now, a lot of people don't necessarily believe in that. But back to what I said earlier about messages coming from the gods, right? Now we know that the messages really come from inside of us. But if we're tapped into the unconscious, there are kinds of communications. Like even in my room, if I'm sitting with somebody and I'm listening, I may have an image come to my mind, or I may have a thought come to my mind, and sometimes the very thing that I'm thinking, they will start to say. It isn't that I'm clairvoyant in any way. I'm very tuned into the experience. So there is sometimes a way that the unconscious literally speaks to somebody else, right? This is why we can all have such a tremendous effect on each other. just by being present in the presence of another person. But I think some people have a gift of being able to experience something outside of the realm of what we can see. And this is very controversial. But I believe that there are, to me, there are things we don't always understand, and that this is a complex universe. And there's just too many people just like you, Cynthia, who have these kinds of experiences where they have a dream and it really is a message, and we can't make sense of it. We can't prove it. It's not something science can pin down, but it sounds like something very real happens for you, and that's your real experience. But what I'm thinking is, for your other dreams where you say they're just everyday dreams and they don't have any meaning, those are the juicy ones for you. Those are the juicy ones for you, and you're dismissing them. And I would say start to get really curious about those, because those are going to guide your life right now. Okay. That's what I would think.
That's so powerful that you said that. And the gift, I can see that too, that Cindy is this carrier for messages for other people. And so, but the way you said about how the everyday dreams are for her, and then those really vivid dreams are the messages for those that you are to assist and guide to the next, step. So I love that. I think it was a really good way to wrap it up, that we're on the top of the hour now. But I'm curious, Jamie, moving forward, as you transition from your everyday practice to serving at different audiences and to the greater masses, how and who is that you're serving, and how can we get a hold of you to do that? I definitely will leave your free dream analysis in this group, and I'd love to share that elsewhere. But moving forward, what does that look like for you in the coming year?
Well, I'm not giving up my practice. I still will be teaching. I still consult, and I'll have my private practice because I love that work. It's so meaningful to me. But at the same time, I'll be expanding my business through the Windows to Wisdom free community. I will be adapting a paid community that's going to be more of a place where people can actually have time consulting with me and diving deeper. And I'll be doing, monthly master classes and really diving deep. But in the free community, there's going to be lots of information around mind, body, and spirit health and accessing the unconscious. And I'm creating a community where people can network and share and grow and learn together. So it's not really just about me being the expert, but all of us coming together with our unique gifts and strengths and connections. And, doing this kind of work can be incredibly taxing. It can lead to burnout. And we know that when you're in community with other people, you're going to build resilience. If you have more resilience, you keep from burning out. And all of us are trying to juggle personal life, work life, managing our physical, emotional, and spiritual health. And so this is a place where I feel like I want people to come and develop personally and professionally. And then on my website, windowstowisdom.com, that's where I'm also going to be listing these future offerings, including courses and retreats. So there are ways that I'll show up and be able to be available and teach.
Yes, yeah. I look forward to learning more from you about your gifts, and just the vision that you have is so powerful. And I look forward to being a part of it and supporting it and learning and growing with you, and being really curious about my own dreams and other people's dreams, and how we can better help each other through the
unconscious. And I think I'm going to be doing a dream workshop, because people keep asking for that time. So I think doing a dream workshop where it's a few hours where you can kind of have time to dive deep on some people's stuff, helping people actually guide them. And also, because I value journaling and free associative journaling, there'll be a journaling challenge early next year. So, but people can just go to the website and check out the Instagram and find out everything. But it's been a pleasure to talk to you. Really fun.
It has been. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. And Cynthia, nice to see you.
And we will definitely share your contact and join you in the free group.
Thank you.